The sirens wailed so violently it felt like the sky itself was tearing open. In broad daylight, beneath the blinding sun and the glare of glass towers, a woman many believed untouchable lay on a stretcher, her skin pale, her breaths shallow, and her life draining far too quickly. Doctors shouted over one another, their urgent footsteps echoing across the hospital bay, and standing at the edge of the chaos, a man with tired eyes and calloused hands felt a cold weight drop inside his chest when he heard them say the words that would shatter everything. "She has only minutes left unless we find a donor right now." That was the moment that changed his destiny. That was the moment the life of a powerful CEO became tethered to that of a humble single father who had spent years trying to stay invisible. And neither of them had any idea that the blood flowing through his veins would become the beginning of a connection no one could have ever predicted. If you believe kindness and second chances can change someone's whole world, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Touch of Kindness to help stories like this reach more hearts. In the bright stretch of midday, Arlen Reeves stood frozen with the grocery bag half slipping from his fingers, oranges rolling away across the pavement. Just moments earlier, he had been walking out of the community clinic after picking up asthma medication for his 8-year-old daughter, Mara. Life had been a series of tightropes for him, working 2 jobs, timing shifts around school pickups, scraping together enough for rent, all while pretending that exhaustion didn't sit like stone in his bones. He had never expected to find himself caught in a whirlwind outside the towering Reeves Corporation headquarters, a place he normally avoided because simply passing by made him feel small, like he was glimpsing the world of people who floated far above the kind of life he knew. But today had been different. Today he saw paramedics rush a stretcher. Through the clinic doors, the woman on it barely conscious, her perfectly tailored white blouse stained crimson. He recognized her name when a panicked assistant shouted it into a phone: Seren Dalmont, the 36-year-old CEO, known for her icy elegance, her sharp business instincts, and her merciless focus. The woman people said never cracked, never faltered, never let anything shake her. And yet there she was, fragile and dangerously fading as doctors rattled off medical terms he didn't understand. What he did understand clearly was the desperate announcement she needed a rare blood type, B negative, and their reserves were already depleted by an accident earlier that morning. They were calling nearby hospitals, but the doctor's voice trembled as he said she wouldn't make it 10 more minutes. Arlen didn't know where the courage came from. Maybe it was the way Mara squeezed his hand and whispered, terrified, that the woman looked like she was sleeping forever. Maybe it was the instinct that had been ingrained in him since becoming a father, the reflex to protect life even when he felt powerless. Or maybe it was because he too knew what it felt like to run out of time. Without thinking, he stepped forward, heart hammering, and said he was B negative. The nurse blinked in shock, then practically dragged him to the donation room. As the needle pierced his skin, he stared at the wall, thinking only of his daughter waiting in the hallway and hoping this decision would not affect his ability to work that night's shift. But as he watched the blood fill the bag, warm and dark, he felt an unexpected sense of purpose, as if for the first time in years he was doing something undeniably meaningful. Seren survived because of him. The transformation from minutes left to stabilizing happened so quickly it felt unreal. For Arlen, it became just another memory stamped into a long day of responsibilities. He didn't expect to see her again, nor did he imagine she would want to thank a nobody like him. But 3 days later, in a soft wash of late morning sunlight filtering through the clinic window, he felt his heart drop when Seren walked in with her assistant. She was still pale but undeniably striking, her posture straight, her long dark hair shimmering as though the sunlight itself obeyed her. She asked for him personally, to everyone's shock. Arlen tried to hide behind a seating chart posted on the wall, hoping they had the wrong name. but Seren called out softly, thanking him for saving her life, and when he finally turned around, their eyes met for the first time. Her gaze was intense, almost searching, and in that moment he felt exposed in a way he wasn't prepared for. She asked why he stepped forward when so many others had not. He shrugged awkwardly, avoiding her eyes, saying he just did what anyone would do. But Seren looked at him with a mix of fascination and disbelief, as if she had lived long enough among people who calculated every move that the idea of someone acting purely out of kindness felt foreign to her. Over the next days, Seren returned, not out of obligation but with an earnest curiosity. The woman known for her ruthless schedule suddenly had time to check on him, to ask about his life, to kneel down and talk warmly to little Mara, who instantly adored her. Seren learned that Arlen worked part-time as a delivery driver and as a maintenance technician. She noticed how he hid the weariness in his face behind humor. She observed how fiercely he loved his daughter, always keeping her close yet encouraging her bright curiosity. And Arlen learned that Seren wasn't the cold corporate queen people painted her as. She had grown up fighting through expectations, had lost her brother at a young age, and had built walls around herself that protected her from the world, but also trapped her inside them. Still, both of them felt something shifting, even though neither dared name it. One bright afternoon, Seren visited Arlen while he was repairing a broken fence outside his apartment complex. She watched him work silently for a while before stepping closer, the fresh scent of spring and sunlight coating the moment. She told him she wanted to repay him, to offer him anything he needed, financial support, a job, a place to stay if his current housing was unstable. Arlen felt embarrassment coil in his stomach, but also gratitude. However, instead of asking for anything for himself, he asked if she could help with funding new inhalers for children at Mara's school whose families struggled like he did. Seren stared at him, momentarily speechless. No one had ever responded to her offers with something so selfless. Their connection deepened quietly, almost reluctantly. Seren began to accompany him during some of his breaks, walking beside him through the marketplace, learning how to select ripe produce from street vendors who recognized Arlen but stared cautiously at her polished presence. Mara often slipped her hand into Seren's, and that small gesture softened something in Seren that she had long hidden. She found herself smiling more, lingering longer, and thinking about Arlen even when surrounded by boardroom executives and endless spreadsheets. Arlen, too, found himself glancing at the clock during his shifts, wondering if he'd see her later, imagining her laughter, the gentle way she leaned close when she listened, the fierce intelligence behind her softening stare. But their worlds were not easily merged. Rumors spread quickly. Seren's board members questioned her judgment, insisting she distance herself from a man far below her social and financial standing. Her assistant warned her that aligning with a single father from a struggling neighborhood would damage her public image. Seren found herself torn between the powerful empire she had built and the quiet man who had unknowingly saved her long before he ever donated blood, saved her from loneliness, from emotional isolation, from a life that looked impressive but felt painfully empty. Arlen faced challenges of his own. Neighbors whispered that he was chasing money, that Seren's presence would lead nowhere good, that people like her never stayed. He worried constantly whether his life, cramped apartment, late paychecks, second-hand clothes, would embarrass her. He told himself she deserved someone polished, someone wealthy, someone capable of walking beside her without feeling like an outsider. Yet every time he thought about stepping back, he remembered Seren sitting cross-legged on the floor, helping Mara build a cardboard castle, her laughter ringing softly through the small living room.